If you're an LGBT person, please listen to this. The Supreme Court just announced that they will take up in the fall overturning gay rights in America. What this means is that the states will then have the power to reenact laws such as Lawrence versus Texas, which is a sodomy law that Ken Paxton talked about, which would make it legal to basically hunt down LGBT people and have them locked up and prosecuted as criminals.
So by now we're all too familiar with the fact that the right wing in this country is not operating under a system of principles or justice. They're simply rearranging the social structure of the United States in such a way that they believe will bring proper order. And one of the more interesting things that you see in any type of extremism, whether it be far right, far left, political, religious, it doesn't matter, any type of fanaticism, there's this mythical time of before all of us were here, when things were in order and people lived according to the, virtuous rights that God gave us, or whatever it is that the belief is. There's always this nostalgia of the past that really never existed. Because the truth of, humanity is that this is what we do. We fight each other. We make things hard for one another. And then we come together and we make things better. It's just a consistent fight. It's a cyclical action to where we're constantly battling one another for survival. But, the far right wing in this country wants to take us back to a time where they believed that things were in order and things were just right. But we all know what that truly means for everybody else.
To understand why this tweet is so insidious, you have to have a background of Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus Board of Education, which most of us do, but let's review. Plessy versus Ferguson upheld the doctrine of separate but equal. That was a United States Supreme Court case in which the U.S. Supreme Court said that separate facilities for different races is constitutional as long as those separate facilities are equal. Brown versus Board of Education came along, and that case was specifically about schools, right? But in that case, the court did rule that separate facilities are inherently unequal. After that, courts started striking down separate but equal rules about buses, public places, restaurants, all over the place. But this tweet was in response to Barack Obama lamenting about the Supreme Court overruling Roe versus Wade. Now, I know y'all are going to try to play dumb and say, oh no, the senator was just saying that the Supreme Court has overruled precedent and sometimes it is good. First of all, that argument don't make no goddamn sense. Indicating that the court walked back separate but equal and therefore the court walking back Roe versus Wade could be a good thing. I don't even need any legal analysis here. Are you dumb?
Because the truth is, the further back in time you go, the more chaotic and barbaric and archaic things get. This mythical time when segregation was in play, where, blacks couldn't drink out of the same water fountains, where, communities would literally drain the entire public pool because one black person got in there. Oh, you mean those times, or the the times of eugenics where white men believe that we're the superior race, even though they're the youngest race because everyone, originated in Africa. Well, I mean, on top of the fact that race really isn't real. So, genetically, we're pretty much all identical. But, that being aside, or what are we talking about? The mythical time of slavery. Oh, that's when things were so mythically great, right? When people were in chains in this country and when land was being taken from Native Americans who used to range from the tip of North America to the tip of South America, and especially within the United States, they're barely left. You talking about those times? When exactly were things in such great order and such great peace? Because all that's happening is you're taking rights away from people. Roe v. Wade has been reversed, and Clarence Thomas already let us know what else is on the chopping block. And, he left interracial marriage off of there, but it doesn't matter because even without his vote, they can leave that up to the states as well, in their principled fight to leave everything up to the states. Well, of course, our freedoms and what have you. Because, taking away, the LGBTQ community's rights to get married and, be miserable like the rest of us, because, there's plenty of people in heterosexual marriages, as we're all plenty familiar with. They're absolutely miserable with one another. But no, we can't let gay people do that. We can't let those gays be miserable or happy together, because it could be one of the two. We can't allow for that. That's the agenda. That's all they're doing, and they're doing it swiftly and quickly because they know that they really don't have a democratic future. And that's what we talk about here all the time. And unfortunately, that means that the authoritarianism is going to continue to get more and more real in this country. And that can only mean that we have to be more and more real than they are, fight harder, because at the end of the day, our fight is better.